the cloud. And then all of a sudden you get a referral, you get a phone call, and your whole business can completely change. In the last 2 days, it just reminds me of the power of why Primerica built this business the way that they've done. And it's so exciting to me to see everything that I was promised start to happen a little bit. And, I had a lady that I had hired, she must have been now, I would say 5-6 years ago. And, I got a referral from actually it was a lady and her husband. I got a referral from them just out of the blue. I hadn't heard from them in a long time, but they've just been really applying a lot of the stuff that we've been teaching them. And sure enough, they thought of me when they ran across somebody, and they've got a lump sum of money to invest. And it's just really, it's like, wow, that's why even when people aren't, maybe on your team, stepping up to what you were hoping, you just never know what the outcome is. So we always try to treat everybody really well, and it's just great. And, I met a guy out prospecting yesterday. And, he's a manager for some kind of a company where they do security. And he's coming in for interview next week, and it's just, there's just interest in people are everywhere. And so, we just have to make sure that we are getting as good as possible at teaching our business, teaching our products and what we do. And so, last week we focused on life insurance. And this week, what we're going to focus on is 2 different of our products. And I've got some really great ways of talking about these 2 different products that we had never talked about before. Some great ways of explaining it, great ways of showing the product. So the first one we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to talk about the home and auto product, because, there's a handful of products that we have here at Primerica that are built to empower us. They're built to give us the means of talking to anybody, anywhere, and have them lead to something else. And so for you to have the confidence to do that, you need to understand these products, not completely, but enough to have a good conversation and understand why the client should take time out of their time to go forward with them. But then on top of that, once you have a client to talk to, let me turn on my backlight here. Oops, wrong one there. Let's see. Once you have a client to talk to, then the matter is, what do you have them do next? How do you actually move forward with it? And so we're gonna really get into talking about that. And so mute. Okay, I'm gonna just okay. Okay. Okay, so what we're going to start with is home and auto. So first of all, with the home and auto program, one thing you have to understand is, like any of our products, you're never going to know how it works or anything really about it until you yourself go through with the product yourself, and at least call in. So number one, you need to call in and go through the process yourself and make sure that that the process your clients are going to go through. Me and Simone were on a couple appointments last night. Until about 10:45 last night. I had 11 o'clock, I had a 2:30, then at 5 o'clock, and then we had a 6:30 and an 8:30 yesterday. So just a busy day. It was super fun. Simone just had a blast getting out and just kind of seeing, and she'll be on here in a minute, but just kind of seeing what was going on. And so, in these appointments, there's a lot of little things that she can be paid on right now. One was, the home and auto. So here's what happened. So you call yourself, we were talking to one of the clients there about the home and auto, and we were explaining how, if it's not better for you, we're going to tell you, don't change it, which is something kind of unique about, talking to Answer Financial versus talking to, a specific insurance company. And people need to understand that that's the experience that they're going to get when they call in. It's going to be a legit experience of someone trying to help them versus trying to sell them. And so Simone was able to step up and say, yeah, that's actually my experience. I called in, I had the best rate, and they told me not to switch. And so you want to call in so you have an experience to talk about and a story to talk about yourself. And if you should be calling in, if you don't have the Refer Secure app on your phone when you got all registered in there, you want to make sure you're calling in every 12 months yourself to make sure that you continue to have the best rate. I've switched it 3 times. Hartford, Travelers, and then I forget who I have now, Safeco. So I got moved around a few times, constantly saving me money. And so looking at the next thing here. So the next thing would be, so now you got a client there. You want to make sure that you are never ever handing them a brochure and saying, okay, go call the client. Okay, that's the last thing you ever want to do with this. You want to be either one of 2 ways. You want to make sure that you yourself are calling in with the client sitting right there, which is ideal because it actually gets done. Or you set a time to have your person at Answer Financial call them. But one way or another, you want to be involved and never leave it in the client's hands. Okay, it's really important. And then another thing is that they absolutely must have the declaration pages handy. And sometimes they don't maybe necessarily know what those are. That's just the second page usually of your insurance packet. And so just having that ready is extremely important. And so then the next thing is having what's called the Refer Secure app downloaded. Now the Refer Secure app is a fairly new thing that's been added to our home and auto program. And it's an app you download on your phone. And so when you're with the client, you can actually log the client in there and you can scan their declaration page and documents, and it'll send it right into that rep that you select. And that rep will then be able to do the quote more accurately and kind of get it ready for the client. But on top of that, once they issue the product to the client, they have the insurance, then what they're going to be able to do is they're going to be able to, every 12 months, it'll automatically check to see if there's a better deal for them. So they're always going to have the lowest rate. It's going to constantly watch for them to make sure they're getting that lowest rate, which is a huge selling point for people on that area. So that's a really great app to have. Make sure you have that. I've used it. That's why we've switched the last time. So some common objections that come up, with this is, I have a guy, right? Someone says, you know what, I've been working with a guy, have a guy. You say, you know what, great. I mean, that's awesome. I understand that. It only takes about 10 minutes. Make the call, see if you can save yourself some money. And then, you know what, you can decide how much you like the guy, if you want to overpay him or not, after the fact. But at least call in and find out if there's a better rate there for you. With our program, you're going to be able to have access to your insurance cards right on the mobile app. You're going to be able to have access to, again, you tell them about, alerts anytime that there's a better rate out there, you're going to get an alert for that. Okay. So you're going to want to make sure that you have that there, and you're going to get that. And then, and it's just all done through the phone app. It's just such a simple thing, and versus having to deal with, an insurance rep. Another objection you get is, I just paid for my current policy. What do I do with it? And so what you can do in that scenario is just tell them, like, great, that's absolutely no problem. The way insurance works is, once you get qualified for a new one, so now you got a new policy, what happens is your old one then, you only have to pay for what you've used. So they'll refund back anything you haven't used. And so, no, so the app is called Refer Secure. I used to be called something else, but I think that's what it's called now, is Refer Secure. So you can check that. I know that that's what we have on POL. So when you're looking at it, look up Refer Secure on that. And so anyway, we can kind of verify if it's changed or something, but the last I saw, that's what it was called. And so, they'll get that refunded. Next thing is, I'm really happy with my current service. I've been with them for, 20 years. You always hear these stories. I've been with them 20 years. I love them. I don't want to change. people have these loyalty thing to their companies. And so, great, did you I don't know if you realize though that, that if you've owned a company for a long time, chances are there's a lot better rate out there for you. Other companies are constantly changing and updating their rates to fit, your style a little bit better. It only takes about 10 minutes. and we can find out just, you know, if there was a ton of money savings, you might feel a little bit different. And so, you know, these are just some ways to kind of help answer that. And the thing is too, is what you got to be careful of with the home and auto thing is that we are not licensed to sell home and auto. And so what happens is if they start asking you questions that are, you know, beyond the scope of what you should be talking about. For example, someone says, will you explain to me how the, you know, this type of coverage works? Will you explain that to me? Or they say to you, well, will you show me how, you know, this works? In as far as specific insurance questions, or, you know, you got to say, you know what, I got the perfect person. I have a specialist here at Answer Financial. That's their job, to deal directly with that. Let's get them on the phone and we'll have a specialist answer that for you. Okay, you don't want to ever answer something you're not licensed to answer. Okay, so just make sure you're not answering that. It's a great way, the home and auto program, to earn an extra 75, 80 bucks, you know, with the program. And it's just a really great recruiting tool too, because you know, you talk about somebody who could use an extra, you know, we talk about extra $100 a month. You know, you just get a couple people that, you know, even on the referral agent side. You know, one of the appointments we were at yesterday, the lady, you know, wasn't able to work, but, you know, from a referral side, you know, I said, well, you know, you're still out and about, right? Well, yeah. So, you know, if you could go out there and you could, you know, just help someone save a little money in home and auto because they just answered a phone call, that would help you out, right? You're like, oh yeah, that makes a ton of sense, right? So it's a great way to get people started. And when you get a new recruit, it's a really great way to get them moving forward, because that's something they don't have to wait to get licensed to do. And so you can get some activity a lot faster, is because you're able to get them moving. And that's one of the biggest problems when we hire a new associate, is until you're licensed, you can't get paid, and all these other things. And so if you just have them focused on those things, then it could be a long time before any business is written. So with this, Vivint, the PLVP, all that, it's a really great way to get a new rep moving forward and talking to people about that. And so it's a very simple program, and it's great that and just always remember, it's a referral program. Okay, it's not something that we specialize in ourselves. So we want to make sure we're you know, explaining to people that's a way to save money, so you can put it towards things like an insurance and investments, college savings. Don't overspend, because that's hurting, that's robbing from your future. On the flip side, though, we want to make sure that you're not getting too involved in the selling of it. We're just simply saying, let me connect you with a specialist, and then they will, you know, help you decide if it's a good move to change or not. Okay. And so the home and auto program, make sure you guys are talking about it everywhere. I know that there are so many times when it kind of slips through and doesn't get talked about, because it's just, you know, it's one of those things that's like, well, you know, I don't really, you know, make a ton of money on it per se, but it's not about that. With this program, it is all about what it can turn into that matters. That is what it is. It starts with the home and auto to get to connect with the client, but pretty soon after that now, it turns into a life sale, an F&A, and the whole 9 yards. So, okay, guys, listen, the next product we're going to talk about tonight is the PLPP program. Now, I change this up a ton. So I want you guys to get out a pen and paper. Remember, this isn't just a conference call. This is training tonight, right? So what we're doing is we're sitting there doing training, okay? And so make sure you got a pad of paper out, and we're going through here, because I'm going to show you guys a way to really help close this out for the client, and it's going to help you a ton in selling this product. And this is a way that I started doing it recently, and it's starting to have a lot more success. But it is more work on your part, which is good. It's okay, because more work you're doing means the client's getting more value, and that is a good thing, okay? So, okay, so you're sitting down with the clients. You've gone through the sample F&A, you've gone through the presentation. Now you're going to start teaching about the steps involved. The steps involved in moving forward, okay, with the products. So what we're going to do here to help a client understand the value of it, you got my little whiteboard up in front of you there, is what we're going to do is we're going to kind of just draw a house, okay? And so once we draw this house here, okay, we're gonna draw a roof on there. Then we're gonna draw multiple layers on here. So just put 3 lines to the middle after that. So it's a very, you know, normal house. We'll even put a chimney on there. Okay. So, and the chimney is important. Make sure you put it on there. Okay. And so what's going to happen is you're going to say, okay, client, so listen, there is this process that we go through in terms of getting your financial house in order. It's a very, very important process. And so what happens is, okay, with the house, of course, we have the foundation, right? We have this part that we have to get set right first. And like we talked about earlier, you know, this is the life insurance. We write life insurance in here. Okay, the reason why life insurance is number one, we call this one, okay, is because, you know, if life insurance isn't there, everything's gone tomorrow. Like, life insurance gives you the opportunity for a tomorrow, the chance to carry on. And so life insurance is number one. That's the foundation of your financial house. But the next part is what we call legal. And that's on the roof. And this is what we call 1A. Okay, it's part of number one. And what happens here is in legal, okay, and legal is on the roof because why? Well, if you were building a house, okay, if you were building a house, you wouldn't go mid-range house and buy all this furniture and buy all this nice lamps and you know, put all this money in new carpet and appliances. You wouldn't go and put all that into your house before the roof was on, would you? You wouldn't do that because you leave everything in jeopardy if you did that. It wouldn't make any sense to do that. So the roof is legal, okay? And inside legal, you have one, you have your will, okay? And that's just like, if I die, these are my wishes. We have number two in here, we have the power of attorney, POA, and number three, we have your living will. And we'll get into these three things and what they mean in a minute. And I'm going to teach you guys stories and examples to use when going through this to help the client understand how important this is, okay? So in the foundation of the house, it starts with the life insurance as one, but as soon as we're done your life insurance, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we're gonna protect it all through the will, okay? So the will is gonna say, if something happened to me, you know, now that I'm worth all this money now because we just did your life insurance. So you're constantly able to close on life insurance because you're saying, you know, now that, you know, we're going to get your will in place because now that you're going to have life insurance in place, we need to know where that money is going. And so the will show where that money is going. It'll help disperse it to the family. Number two, okay, is going to be emergency account. Okay. Number three is going to be retirement. Okay, and number four is going to be college for your kids. Okay, so how we start, Mr. and Mrs. Client, is we're starting with the foundation, number one. Then we protect it by putting the roof on the house. Okay, that's the first part. You build the foundation, then you build the roof to protect everything in the middle. Right, that's what it's all about. It's a very important message. Okay, then we go to number two, if there's money left. So what we're going to ask the client is say, look, so how much money can you put into your house each week? Okay, and they're going to tell you, I can put in, you know, into my house, I can put in $100. Okay, so I can put $100 in my house. Now, here's the reality of the situation. Your client's not going to be able to obviously fund their entire house. I mean, the economics of the whole thing just aren't right for them right now. $100, you're not going to be able to do it all. So what happens is, we have to just still do it in order. So number one, life insurance. Number two, the roof, okay? Bottom, top, protection, right? Then we go and fund the emergency fund next, number two, okay? And that's probably gonna use up all the money, okay? And so later, once we either recruit them and we make more money or their life allows them to have more money, then we can attack number three, which is retirement, and then number four, eventually college. Now what happens is sometimes people say, well, you know, I want, you know, it's really important to me, this at college, I want to be able to, you know, save for my kids' college. Say, well, listen, the reason the priorities are the way they are right now is because your kid, they can work through college. People do it all the time, but you can't work through your retirement. Retirement means you're not working. So if you want to retire, you got to stop working. Okay, so you can't work through retirement. Your kid can work through college. So therefore, they're in the order they are right now. We don't want to start retirement before we finish your savings account or get that amount saved, okay, for the time frame, is because, well, if we put all your money into retirement and you need the money, well, then it's just going to cost you a ton of money in commissions and fees, and it would be all for naught. You would have lost money over that. So we don't want to do that either. So there's a specific order. And so when you explain the order to the client and they see where the legal fits in, that's what makes all the difference. And then the chimney, okay, the chimney here, okay, is the smoke. Okay, this is all the debt. Okay. So we want to clear up all the debt to make this all more possible. Because Mr. and Mrs. Klein, if we didn't have the smoke up here getting everywhere, blowing it all out, we would have more money, okay, to use towards your house. Okay. So once a client sees it in order, they see where they stack in value. It's a lot easier for them to go, okay, I see why we have to build it and do it in the order that you're showing me here. Okay. Because it hurts somebody to build the kitchen before they build the foundation. Which would be like a retirement or emergency savings. You can build the greatest emergency savings. You get $5,000, $10,000 emergency savings. You die, your family's still broke, loses everything. So it just doesn't matter until number one is done. Okay, it has to be done that way in specific order. And so, let's move on to talking a little more about it now. So we're reading through some of my notes here to make sure we do this in order. So what you're going to do is you're going to then prepare them for the next visit. So we're talking about the legal side right now. So we've shown them why it's important. We've shown them what order it's in, which is right from the beginning. And now we're going to show them the next step of this, okay? And so the next step is we're going to prepare them, okay? We're going to prepare them for our next meeting when we come back. And that next meeting, what it's going to look like is on this second meeting, you're going to take with you the will questionnaire. They're going to complete their application online. Okay. So if they go online, they prepare their will application, they complete it, they sign up for it. Then you're going to sit there and you're going to help them fill out their will questionnaire. So in order for them to be able to do that, they need to have some answers to some questions already done. So you're going to have a period of 3, 4, 5 days, maybe a week until you come back to that home. So they need to have some things done. So these are the questions that you need to tell them they need to have answers to before you get back to that home. Okay, number one, okay, and you guys, I hope you're writing these out with me here, okay, is who would raise your kids if you weren't there tomorrow? Okay, that's the first question. Now, if you were to go right in there and slack that questionnaire right down in front of your client and say, okay, tell me what's the answer to this, they're gonna be like, I have no idea. That's why you have to prepare them on the initial appointment for the next time you come back. Here's how you need to answer that. You know, here's a question you need to have thought out and have an answer to. Because what happens is, you know, the husband and wife each kind of have their own plan for what would happen to the kids. You know, something would happen. You know, my wife said, oh, well, I would go to my sister, you know, if I died and I had the kids solely. And he's like, well, if you weren't here and I had him and also I died, no, I would want it to go to this person, you know. But if you both died, okay, what happens is that it doesn't matter what you thought if it's not written in a will. What ends up happening is it's going to be up to a court to decide what happens. Now, just so you guys know, in the state of Washington State, we don't have a probate system here. Okay, we have a system here. I'm trying to think of what that's called. Oh yeah, it's called intestacy statute. I can't forget how you what that word is, but you guys can probably get what I'm talking about. What it means is that if you die without a will, it said that your estate is in something called intestacy. I think I'm saying that wrong, but either way, what it means is you don't have a will. Interstate. There you go. Why can't I say that? Okay, you don't have a will, and so therefore, what's going to happen is you now have to go. It's going to go through just the proper split. So basically, it just means your closest relative. Okay, and so the problem with that terminology, okay, is that doesn't work for the kids. The kids, it'll go to closest relative, but the court's going to first decide. So there are lots of stories where the kid would go to and stay with in a home until the court decides who should have the kid, because they're going to try to put them with someone who's really close to the kid that the kid knows really well. So like normally, let's say it was like, well, my brother is the closest to me, but if the kid has never met the brother, the court's not going to want to just give it to the brother if, let's say, the grandma knew really, really well. So the court has to then decide who is it that's the closest to the kid and who should get them, when that should absolutely 100% be the parent's decision. And the will states that. Okay, the will says who's going to handle it. The next thing is who handles all the money. Okay, you know, in your estate. Now remember, we just wrote your life insurance. That's as part of this process. So you're worth a lot of money now. So when you die, that's like you having, you know, $1 million sitting in a bank somewhere. So whose job is it to handle that money? When you name your executor in your state, that's what you're saying. You're going to now handle all this money. And so that's really, really important. You have you deciding who that is versus someone else, like a court system, deciding who that is going to be. And so when you look at, so who handles all the money is the next question. So who handles all your money is the next question that you need your client to be thinking about before you come back for the second time. Okay. So when we look at the product now, okay, let's kind of dig in a little bit deeper into the product. Okay. So the legal is like, think of it as like legal insurance. Okay. So we have legal insurance. What are other types of insurance that we have? We have home, we have auto, we have life, right? And what are all these insurance doing? We're always hoping we never have to use them, but we are so thankful we have them for when we do. And that's what legal protection is too. It's a legal insurance. You're getting an attorney, you're getting attorneys. You have a attorney firm that works for you. Yes, ma'am. Come here. This is a very manly moment for me. I have a yogurt thing that needs to be opened because my wife needs a man. Okay, so we are back. And so it's a type of insurance. Don't sell it as, yeah, it's just a way to have lawyers. No, it's insurance policy is what our legal protection is in case basically anything happens. We're going to go through some great examples here soon about that. So you have your homeowners that, hey, we hope nothing happens, but if something does to your home, your homeowner kicks in, covers you. Auto, same thing with your car. Life, we just talked about life insurance, you know, protects your family. This protects everything else that happens, okay? So it's a type of legal insurance, okay? So it works like all of the others. You hope you don't need it, but when it does, it pays for itself instantly. And it's one of those things where it works. It's really amazing when you think about how this works, guys. So we know it's $25 a month plus one for the extra protection, right? So what happens is we pay $25, $26 a month into it, but so do so many other people. And because so many people are paying into it, it brings the cost down. That's why it's so cheap to have it. And you're getting access to all these people for that. And so not everyone uses it, which is why it keeps the cost down. Okay. And so, you know, a lot of types of insurance are doing this now where they're going out and they are pooling money together, like health insurance and all that. And so it brings the premiums down because a lot of people pay into it, but very few people have to actually use it. And that's what makes it affordable for everyone. And so the legal program is just like that. A lot of people paying $26 a month, but not as many needing to use it. Okay. So what are all the parts that you get with the program? Let's go through all the parts you get with our legal program now. Okay. So you got your notes ready here. So the first part is the will. So let's break down the will. And we already talked about the interstate statute. And so, you know, what happens with this is because we don't have probate in the state of Washington. By the way, if you don't understand what probate is, probate means that, you know, if you died without a will, I'm not talking about the children, if you died without a will, that the court system would decide how your stuff is divvied up, okay, and all that. In our state, though, you can go through probate if you choose to. Like if someone says we'd rather go through probate because it's just easier, you can do that, but it's not a requirement. So you can actually, what'll happen is they'll take automatically, they'll take all your assets, okay, when you pass away, you and your spouse just passed away, and so they take all your assets, okay, then they research and find out all your creditors, okay, and then they pay all that off. So then they pay off everything you owe, and then the next line of order is it goes down to closest, okay, closest of kin is essentially what happens. So they're going to get the closest person to you. They're going to pay it all there. So if you don't want it going to your closest of kin, too bad, right? Get a will. That's how you fix that. There's no probate required. And so, the court, they use a system called like best interest. And that's a part that is not very good, is because your best interest, their best interest, who's to say what's what, right? And so, having the will in place helps make sure that that your child's going to the best family, and that the money is going to be used in the best way that you say for your child. So it's very, very important. The next thing you're going to get, okay, is the power of attorney. Now, the power of attorney, okay, let me give a little example of how this works. Okay, this is essentially giving responsibility over to someone else, your spouse, if you no longer can take responsibility for something. So an example of this, there was a client that he was heading into he was driving down the road. He got in a collision with another car, and he became completely paralyzed. Okay, and this is, guys, really listen to this story. This hits home exactly why you need the power of attorney. Okay, so became completely paralyzed. Was going to be in the hospital for a very long time, and then needing care forever after that. This couple lived, this husband and wife couple, they're a little older, the kids at home. They lived in a beautiful home. Okay, they had over $700,000 worth of equity, you guys, but they still owed money on the home. Okay, they still had a mortgage on it. They bought it in a time where the markets were just flourishing and growing like crazy. Okay, so they bought this home. Now he ends up in the hospital. Okay, paralyzed. All right. And so he's going through, and she says, well, you know what? I'm far away. I'm like 2 hours away from the hospital. I want to sell the home and move closer to my husband. Now, keep in mind, he is in vegetative state. He can't, he's incoherent. In other words, he can't sign for nothing. He can't do anything. And this couple did not have a power of attorney. Okay. So what happened with them was, she wanted to sell the house and move closer to him. But when she found out that she needed, in order to sell the home, she needed 2 things. She needed her signature on the paperwork and his, because he was married. But because there was no power of attorney, she couldn't sell the home. And because he couldn't work, she didn't have money to pay the mortgage. And because she couldn't refinance and take the money out of the home because she needed his signature, she lost the home. They actually lost $700,000 that was rightfully theirs back to the bank because he couldn't sign for a refinance or sale of the home. They lost it all. And that all could have been solved with a simple power of attorney. You guys understand how crazy powerful that is? Because if that doesn't sell your clients, I don't know what does on getting that done. Okay, it is so unbelievably important. So I hope you guys wrote down that story, because that story is a very real story that happened in our company. And I hope you guys explain that to your client and how that happened, because that happens all over the place, okay? The next thing is, okay, the living will. So what is a living will? Well, there was this, so here's an example of a living will. Okay, so, and this is, guys, this is like, I can't even imagine this situation happening, okay? So there was this lady, she ended up getting on life support. She's a married lady, ended up on life support. And they had no living will. And so what happened was, for 12 years, well, it was like 3 years, the husband started saying, you know what, like, we had talked about this previously. We had decided if this ever happened between us that we would pull the plug. And so after 12 years of this, of watching her and hoping she would come out of it and hoping she was going to be fine, after 12 years, he says, you know, I want to pull the plug. And the family stepped in and said no. So he wanted to pull the plug, and the mom was waiting for a miracle. And I don't know if you guys know how it works, but when it comes to pulling the plug on someone, the whole family has to agree, unless there's a living will, okay? And so here he is, watching his wife not there, wanting to go on with his life, and all this going on, and he could not pull the plug because someone else in the family was hoping for a miracle. And it should have been his call, should have been her call, writing it in her living will, as far as what her needs and wants were with her life, and the living will would help that. So here you got this confrontation going on now forever between you and the family, creating rifts and anger and all that. And on top of that, the kids are watching this. They just lost their mom, and now they're watching a fight in their family. And all this could have been solved with a living will. So very, very, very important, okay? Another area where it really helps, okay, we'll call this traffic. I've heard numerous stories, okay, of people on the news, on the media, of being pulled over unjustly, being accused unjustly, saying you're speeding when they weren't, parking in areas they didn't. Things going on all the time in the traffic world. And, you know, doesn't work every time, but you know what, you guys, when you get in a whole team of attorneys working for you, and so something like that happens, you call the attorney firm, and they have 24 hours to get back. You call before 5, they'll call you within an hour, okay, to get back to you that day to make sure that you got someone helping you. And most of the time, that's going to just disappear, okay, and go away. And, you know, I've never gotten a ticket, so I've never had to use it yet, but I've heard so many stories of people that got tickets and they're like, I was going 5 over. The guy beside me was flying at 100. I'm the one that got nailed for it. The attorney goes, removes it. You don't even show up and they take care of it. So there's a lot of people that use that. Okay, the fifth thing here, guys, look at this, the IRS. Another huge reason to have this. I don't know if you've ever had an audit, guys, but it is nasty. Okay, what happens is with our program, the Primerica Legal Program, okay, what they do is every month you own it, it racks up hours that attorneys work for you. So by the time you've owned this thing for years, you got hundreds of hours logged that you're able to use towards something. So if you get something like an audit, which happens all the time to people, okay, some people never get them. I've already gotten one, okay? What ends up happening is you would have to go and hire an attorney, and it could take hundreds of hours for them to work through all of your books, all of your papers, all your filings, all your and everything. And so you're paying someone hourly for that. What happens is it's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to do. So what do people do when they get audited? They just simply don't hire an attorney because they can't afford one, okay? But when you have a program like ours, you got an attorney firm you've been paying and racking up hours for. So they jump in and now they're going to, spend all these hours working to fight and fix your audit problems because that's what you've been paying for. You're empowered, you guys. That's what this thing does. It's an insurance against all this stuff. It empowers you to be able to have an attorney sitting there for you to get through this. Okay. And so it's, if nothing else, you call in and they explain your rights to you. Okay. Another thing, and we'll call this number 6, is a trial defense. Okay, trial defense. So let's just say, I'll tell you a little story that I heard about, okay? And this is a real big one. So there was this guy, he was driving, it's actually like a 2-lane road. They kind of split off. There was like an on-ramp on the left, and he was going on the road on the on-ramp, and a lady was coming up beside him, and she just cut over and hit him, just smashed into him. They ended up colliding, spinning out, and she passed away. Okay, well, when the police got there, okay, they arrested him, and he actually got arrested for vehicle, what was it called, homicide, and he wasn't even the one that was in the wrong. So he was in prison, he was arrested, being charged with vehicle homicide, and he had just been driving, and all of a sudden he was hit. Next thing you know, he's being handcuffed and taken away. Well, this guy happened to have our legal protection program. Okay, so he just got on the phone with his attorney. They came in and got every single charge dropped because he simply wasn't in the wrong. Well, if you don't have attorneys, what are you going to do? Who do I call? Where do I go? How much is it going to cost me? Right? And so by the time you've even gotten anything even figured out, you've paid a $5,000 attorney. That's right, Yvonne says dash cam. Well, the problem in this guy's case, they hit him from the side, and so dash cam wouldn't have even picked that up. But it would have helped a lot seeing how they didn't go hit him. And so, really, really great example of how amazing, again, just from a defense strategy, that worked. Let's look at another subject. Let's talk about renting. about renting. Okay. So when I used to be a landlord, there was something that we always did with our new tenants, which is walk through the house with a checklist, and we would point out all the little scratches on the walls and dents and stuff, and then I would sign, and the client would, and the renter would sign, the tenant would sign, saying that these are all the marks in the house. So anything that comes after this comes out of your deductible. Okay, and you're allowed a certain amount, and all that. Okay, and so what happened is all the time was renter contracts. That's not very often done. And even if it is done, what will happen is the landlord goes back to the tenant and says, well, you did this and you damaged all this, that, and the other, and you're just you. Okay. We've gotten every renter's deposit. What were you saying here, John? We've got every renter's deposit back. Yeah. So, but a lot of times it doesn't happen. So the landlord tries to say, no, you did this, and then they don't want to return the renter's deposit because, you didn't do a good job or they didn't do a good job pointing it out and signing it and all that stuff. So what ends up happening is, if you have our legal program, you just call up your attorney, you go, no problem, I got my attorney, I'll handle this, and you call it up and bam, it's done. Someone steps in, takes care of you, because what will happen is when you call in, you got to remember, the attorneys down there in Tacoma, every single one of those, there's just specialists that deals directly with your problem. And you're going to get that lawyer that day calling you back to help you deal with that. And so the renters, again, another really big one, okay? Another big one is homeowners, HOA. You probably heard of people that live in HOAs. I have a HOA in my neighborhood. Basically everything that needs to get done in there, from the size of how tall you mow your lawn, okay, has to be approved by the homeowners association. And neighborhood like mine, where the homes are 700 plus, what's happening is everyone's concerned with the values of their homes and the appeal and the look, and we are too, and so we don't care. But what happens is, if there's anything going on where you want to change a fence color or any issue, it's all got to be done for the HOA. So here's where I heard this story of a lady, or it's actually a guy in Primerica, one of the agents. He lived in a neighborhood similar to mine. He had a car that where he parked in his driveway, there was a big tree that hung over the road, and it dripped this pitch stuff on his car every day. And this was planted by the association. It's in his yard, but he couldn't just go out and cut it and remove it. Oh, Josh, you're the one that said you got it back. Oh, okay. And so it was dropping over his car, and it was frustrating him. And so what ended up happening was, and I'm going to move it back to, hold on one sec here. I'm going to stop the share on my thing here. Just give me 1 second. All right. And so what ended up happening for this guy is after he called the association. He said, hey, listen, what's going on? Like, I need you guys to get rid of this tree or swap the tree out with something else because it's ruining my car. And for 2 weeks, he never heard anything of it. All of a sudden, he's like, wait a second, I got lawyers. So he picked up the phone, he called PLPP, and the lawyers wrote a letter to the association. And he goes, I don't know what was on that letter. I don't know what they wrote to them. All I know is that the next day, I woke up to this loud noise, and they were out there cutting down the tree. I mean, guys, when you have an issue, and that person who's causing the issue gets a letter with attorney letterhead on it, okay, and they're writing whatever they write in those letters, it is so empowering. What ends up happening, guys, the PLPP program is so powerful. It's so you just want to make sure that you're really getting a part of that, you guys. So look at it like this. Watch this. And so, we look at the cost of it. We look at the cost of the PLPP program. If we take a look at this here, we'll use a round number. Let's $25 a month. Okay. So if you did this times 12 every month, that is $300 a year. Okay, that your client and you or whoever is paying for this product. Now, if they own this for 20 years, okay, that is $6,000 over 20 years they would have invested into this program. You guys, if you use it only one time over that 20 years, totally worth it. One time over 20 years of owning it, you pay for it hand over every single time. There is no experience where you go and hire attorneys to fight something for you, where it's going to cost you. Most attorneys just retainer is $5,000. Then it's hourly on top of that. Okay. And so this product is not expensive. It is an insurance policy that you will use at some point. And so many people, you say, well, when's the last time you used your attorney? Most people say never. You say, well, why? And well, it's because they don't have one. People don't use attorneys because they don't have attorneys. That's why they don't use them. But if you have them, which every person after you sign up with PLPP does, you use that attorney all the time. Speeding tickets, parking issues. You know, we had someone that in one of our real estate transactions, they were buying a house, and I was on the selling this back when I was a realtor. We were helping them buy the house, and so they had attorneys that they were working with through our program. It was with Primerica, but it wasn't with me. So what ended up happening was they get all their documents for closing. They're ready to sign papers. They took the papers because they had lawyers, and they sent them over to the lawyers because, again, there's real estate specialists at the attorney firm. They reviewed them, and they were able to save my client. This house was a multi-million-dollar home. They were able to save my client $11,000 in closing costs. Okay, because they told us to go back to the closer, like, I don't need this, I don't need this, I don't want to pay for that. And then they said, if they won't drop those costs, we'll do it for you in-house for cheaper. We'll close out the loan or the escrow. And it was just unbelievable. And so you have the ability to send any document you have to sign into the attorneys, and they'll tell you exactly what to do with it, what it means, and what your rights are. Okay, you guys, the biggest message with this product is it empowers you. And so that is why it is the roof, the foundation, the peak of our planning. Life insurance builds the bottom. The will protects everything from above. And you have to have that in place. But if you don't know how to explain it to the client where they understand why it's important, they're not going to get it. They're just going to see it as just a will, and they're going to want to cancel the premiums after a month or two. They're not going to be buying it for the right reason. So all those things we went through today, you need to be able to explain that to your clients so they can understand it, explain it in a way where they can go, oh, yeah, I can see why that makes sense. Oh, I can see, yeah, the foundation, before I put things into my life, into my plan, I want to make sure that, something happens, there's protection up there for all those things, passing away, needing to sign for my spouse, if they become, need help or something, all that stuff. It's unbelievable how important this stuff is. And we just simply don't talk about it enough, and we don't really explain it well enough. And so that little house drawing that I showed you there is going to be something we're going to be incorporating into a lot more of your explanations. I've been using it for a while. I just never really put it together with the PLPP, and I just got thinking of how well that works there. I was watching some videos of Omar, and they were talking about it. I'm like, that fits really well right there. And so, on all of these products, it's, again, yeah, you make $100 or something when you sell them, and that's all great. And everyone can use extra $50, $100. That's fine. But the biggest part of these is they get you somewhere further. And because now on the first deployment, we're talking about it. And then we're saying you need to, figure out, answer these questions before I come back to your home. You're doing all that with your client. And then when you're getting actually back there to the client's house, they have it already, and you're going to help them fill out their little questionnaire right there. Because you're doing all that for your client, okay, they're going to see incredible value. They're going to, no other advisor is sitting there helping them complete their will questionnaire, okay, getting that completed for them, helping them getting it sent off, back. And the way we've done it in the past, we've had them, fill out the application and said, okay, just send it back when you're done. And then the application sits on their desk for 2-3 months and doesn't go anywhere. And they're like, what am I paying for? This is bad value. And so the way we're going to fix that problem is we're going to go back and we're going to help them fill it out. And I have the will application, so you don't have to wait for the client to get it in the mail. We have a PDF copy of it, so you guys can just print it out on your printers and take it with you to the appointment and get that all caught up in ahead. So it really makes that process really nice. And obviously with our newer associates, having something they can talk about and get paid on quickly out in the field like that is really, really good. So, when you're talking to people who maybe they're like, well, I don't want to get a life insurance because I don't like testing and all that, the home and auto, the Vivint, the PLPP, those 3 programs you can get paid on without having any form of a license because they're all referral programs. but our job is still to sell to the client, to teach the client why they're important, teach the client how it's all doing. And here's the thing too. I mean, you need to make sure that you own these products. Okay. I don't care who you are. If you don't own one of our products, you're trying to sell it, you're never going to have the conviction it takes to do it. So go sign up for your life insurance, even if it's the smallest policy, right? Make sure that you have PLPP on yourself for all the legal reasons. Maybe you don't need the will yet because, hey, you don't have kids and whatever, but you definitely need the power of attorney. Okay. You don't want, I mean, can you imagine, and the living will, can you imagine if you wound up in a state where you were in a vegetative state, you were gone, your mind is gone, and you stayed for the next 20, 30 years on life support because you didn't have a health power of attorney or living will completed for yourself. There's no excuse for that. Everyone should do that. So if you haven't done it yet, you guys get right on, you get on your phone, and that's right, John. Thank you for saying that. Actually, the will questionnaire now is actually on the phone app for PLPP. So we can actually, the client can do that, download the app and do it right there now on the phone app. So thanks, John, for pointing that out. You see, Primerica is just evolving so fast, you guys, and we are not going to let it get ahead of us. We're going to keep in front of the technology and be using it better. And we let so many of these small products, but they're small, but they build credibility like crazy with our clients. We let those things pass, and we're not going to do that anymore. We're not just focusing on the life insurance and the securities. We're focusing on doing it right. Life insurance and will, emergency savings, right? Retirement, college, in that order. And make sure that we're attacking that debt at the meantime. Like, we want to make sure that we are being valuable. Sincerely, Susan. Thanks, Susan. I gave all the credit to John, and I'm glad you wrote that because, darn it, that's right. Good job. Forget it, John. Take all that back. But you guys, listen, I wanted to take a few minutes here and do just a little bit of recognition. Now that I have Jamila and Simone and Nikki and everyone Nikki has issues where she is with reception. She gets kicked on and off, so she has to watch the recording a lot of times. But have you guys, I want to recognize that this team, because these guys are like, I am very excited about what they're going to do. There's 3 ladies right now that within the next couple of weeks we're going to go and test. Simone says she's going to test this weekend. I mean, she's getting out there with a vengeance. She's going out and, setting appointments very quickly. She's going to be a district just like that. We've got multiple life apps already being expressed that they want to write. She sent me a list of people I need to do quotes on today. She's on fire right now, guys. And this is exactly what you want for anyone that comes into this business, is to see the value quickly. And if she's, in fact, Simone, you're on right now, I believe, or do you get booted off here? I think you got booted off here. But I wanted to have her, share with you guys about the experience that we had, because it was just so fun to see first family go into that home and, just seeing that family excited, getting life insurance. They want it all, want to learn about the business. Then we go at 8:30 to our next appointment. Met at some big pub thing because the only thing open that late. And, same thing, young, extremely ambitious young lady. And, she wants to get involved in our business. She wants the whole, financial planning going on. And so we're just very excited to have our new people getting plugged in and getting moving fast. So you guys are going to be great. You just got to get those licenses done so you can get on to the focusing on building your business. So anyway, guys, I appreciate you guys getting on tonight. If there's any of your reps, I know I know Yvonne, your guy wasn't on tonight. Make sure they get on and watch the recording tonight. I'll leave it on the cloud with the link active here in the next little while. I'll leave it on the cloud for a week before I delete the recording of this training, okay? So make sure they get on and watch that, and make sure they tell you once they've watched it so you know that they've completed the home and auto and the PLPP training program of our series, okay? And so that's all we got for tonight, guys. You have a great night. We'll see you on the call Monday night. Talk to you guys later.